Hi.
Hi, Daddy.
Welcome to the Sam and Ryan channel. My name is Sam.
My name is Ryan.
And this is part 2 to a man versus a woman. If you are seeing this video first, pause. Take a second. Go back and watch the part 1 to this video. This subject matter brought up a lot of good conversation, and we wanted to include and share it all with you, so we decided to split it into 2 parts.
Like we said last week, this video definitely is a little bit heavier compared to some of the happy-go-lucky, wholesome content that you're used to seeing on this channel. But while we find it very important and exciting to entertain you, we also love to inform you and go to the places that you've also told us that you want to go.
Yeah.
So buckle up, enjoy. This is part 2 of Man versus Woman.
Enjoy. How were you taught about puberty? I was thinking about my middle school days, and I was taught about puberty in middle school. I actually don't think I was taught about birth control.
Wow.
Because I remember learning about periods. I remember learning about tampons in school. You know, there was just that health day where all the boys were taken into one classroom and all the girls were taken into the library and got to watch a video about menstruating.
Which again is ridiculous. Like, let's separate them by genders,
Yeah.
which is more of a concept than it is an actuality, but let's separate them by genders and teach them differently. Mm-hmm. And I guarantee you that the girls was all about like, this is really serious, take this seriously, all of these things are gonna happen to you. And for the guys, it was like, okay, dudes, you know, let's talk about the wonder, you know, let's kick our feet up and like, let's just be guys for a minute. It was like taught to us.
Talk about when your voice drops.
Yes, this like chill thing and like just, oh, the wonder of your penis and the male ejaculation and all of this stuff. It's like this most beautiful thing.
It was scary in the library.
Right.
Like talking about like your uterine line shedding itself was not fun. And also them splitting the boys and the girls up like that just made me realize that that is probably what taught me to have shame about menstruating.
Yes. And I also just think like the end result of, because I mean with puberty comes the conversation about sex and all of that.
Yeah.
The end result of sex for boys, orgasm. The end result for girls, pregnancy.
Yes.
Like, were you ever taught about like, I mean, I don't know, how to get yourself there? That was possible, that was an important part of it? I mean, and by the way, like, I don't know how many people know this, I hope that you do, but like, the biological reason that women have orgasms is because it helps get you pregnant. There's a biological purpose for it in the same way that there's a biological purpose for men having an orgasm. So it's just sort of like, this is useful information. And it's also like the end result of men and women sharing in a sexual experience should be the same. It should be about being safe, of course, but also like pleasure and the responsibility that comes with that. But it isn't that. Like, I feel like men are taught all of these things as like, oh, puberty, my guy. And women, it's like fear.
Yeah. Exactly, and which is something that makes me so sad and angry. Like going through high school, anytime I heard a girl referred to as like a prude or whatever, it's like, okay, no, like she has so much fear instilled within her. And it's also like, I get it. Like, I would not want to get pregnant in high school. College, I don't want to get pregnant now. But so it's just like, especially in this like raging time for boys when they're going through puberty and hormones are all over the place, that like they're just trying to grab onto anything that moves. Like the typical thing that they might be grabbing onto like is so fearful because that's all that was taught to that girl. Sad.
Y'all like, still there?
I know that this is like a heavier one, but it's tea, it's true, and it's transparent.
Okay, this one's a little bit lighter, a little bit more on the social side.
Hey guys, look at that.
Do you think men should always pay?
Interesting. A little dipping our toes into like dating norms. No.
No.
I don't think anyone's gender defines how much money they have in their wallet. No, and I just think it's something that should be a conversation.
Always.
Like not just like, hey, Ryan, you're going to pay for everything from now on, right? Because like you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Like case by case, dude.
Yeah. I've never really felt the pressure to pay. Like I offer, especially when I am doing well financially, but I've never really felt the pressure. I've never felt like it's my job as a man.
Yeah.
But I have been told it's my job as a man from women.
Interesting. Well, because that's what I was going to say is like, I feel like growing up in the Christian South, I had always heard a lot of the man should pursue you and you deserve to be pursued, which I think, you know, like knowing your self-worth is a beautiful thing that should be taught. However, I don't think your self-worth is defined by a man paying for your entire meal.
Every time, always. But then
Every
also
time, always.
this idea of like women are to be pursued and men are to pursue.
So sexist.
It's sexist, but it's also scary. I mean, and when you look at how that archetype is defined in culture, especially in like movies and TV shows, it's like never give up.
Yes.
Go after her no
Just
matter what
keep
she says, as
asking.
long as you buy her all of the stuff and keep asking and
You'll
never
win
give
her
up.
over.
And it's like just the way that men are taught to be, I mean, basically predatory. Like, yes, go after her, be unrelenting, never give up. It's
like,
that's not
whoa. I also have met women who are like, yeah, no, he should pay for every meal.
Yeah.
Especially when you're starting to date. And I'm like, that's just so.
No, I
cool.
have been told that by women, and they're like, I'm just traditional. And I'm like, no, actually, I kind of think you're sexist against yourself.
Yeah.
Like, that's possible.
And
like
like,
it's possible to be conditioned by a white male culture to perceive white people and males as the top, even if you are a person of color or a woman. Like, people are conditioned against their best interests all the time, and that's so sad.
Even the notion of like he needs to pay for every meal, like to me, it totally conditions women to think that way, but also like to think that there's some sort of prize that needs to be won, which is also scary.
You can think you're the business.
Yeah, and like everybody likes to be pampered.
Right.
And like I love it when you like take me out on a date and like be like, oh, don't worry, babe, I have this one. But
Right.
I'm not gonna be mad at you.
And also, by the way, I like to be pampered.
Exactly.
Like, I like when you say, don't worry, babe, I got you. And I know that you like not only being on the receiving end, but also on the giving end. Like, that should be a mutual thing.
And also, it's one of those things, God, I love us. It's one of those things where it's like, if I truly am not at a place where I can afford whatever we are about to go do, or if we are there and it's like, I can't do this, like I can't cover this, I know that that is a conversation that can happen by just going like, babe, it's really tight, can you get this one and I'll pay you back tomorrow or in 3 days. And then it's either like, I got it, don't worry about it, or it's like, yeah, I'll cover it, just vote with me in 3 days.
These gender archetypes seem to solidify the notion that you don't talk about these things.
Exactly.
You don't talk about sex, you don't talk about feelings, you don't talk about finances. You are the man, you just assume you have it under control. She is the woman, you just assume she doesn't.
Yeah.
No, like normalize having these conversations, normalize dissolving the archetypical gender expectations that are completely antiquated and unhelpful. .com.
Ball change,
Kick splits.
pot of beret. We've arrived at the last question. Guys, if you're here, one, thank you for sticking it out with us. I know it's been a little tense, but these are important conversations. So thank you.
Thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Dad. Do you like my ribbon dance? How were you taught about sex? I was taught about sex through a little book that my mom gave me. It was literally just like, here's how chickens make babies. Here's how dogs make babies. And here's how humans make babies.
No.
And it was like, cool. And it was like very like cartoony as well. So it wasn't like the biology of everything. It was just like, here's a cartoon man, here's a cartoon woman, and bam, they get in this position and then they have a baby. And then after that, you know, overheard some conversations about it, like in my family when my older siblings were like going through puberty, or like when my older sister like had her first boyfriend. But also then just like through public school. Like that's honestly, I feel like how I learned about sex.
I have the memory in my head of being like 7 and asking my dad in the car on County Road 101 in Minnesota, like, where do babies come from? And my dad, ex-biology teacher, very clinically was just like, the man takes his penis and inserts it into the vagina, like literally reading out of a textbook. And I just remember being shocked, appalled, disgusted, and thrilled. like I felt all of those emotions, and then I immediately was like, tell me again. Then
Puberty.
Sex ed. Which wasn't about having sex. It was about like what sex is, what happens with sex, but like don't do it. And then the rest of sort of my like teaching about sex was like from the Catholic Church, which is like, this doesn't happen until you're married. And so I was in a lot of like uncomfortable sexual experiences in my teens where I wanted things that I didn't feel like I had permission to have. And so I would, you know, stop myself, or we would feel too ashamed to go there. I remember getting like confirmed at my church, and like there being this whole seminar about like sex, and it was so like demonized and really was destructive in my psyche. And I remember like driving home from that like seminar or whatever, and just being so ashamed and afraid, and like wondering like, wait, like, did my parents have premarital sex? Like, did like my aunts and uncles have premarital sex? Like, you know, is this something that happens, or is this not something that happens? I see it on TV, but like, I don't know if, you know, what about God? And then when I finally had sex for the first time, my parents kind of had that sixth sense about it and asked me point blank, but had to say like, you can tell us, you won't get in trouble, because they knew that I would think I was in trouble.
Exactly.
You know, and it's not like I had sex when I was 12, I was 17. And then, you know, their main concern was just like, use protection.
It's so interesting how demonized it is when you're a child, which to some degree I understand the like, you know, you don't want children to be having sex. But I think that there is a certain point in age where you need to understand that they might do it anyways, so you need to teach them safely and give them an open forum to talk about it.
And to ask questions without shame.
And to ask questions.
Yeah, so there are two things. One, I just had this memory, and I want to give my dad some credit. And I forget what the circumstances was or why he said this, but he was like, all I really care about is that you save the ultimate physical expression for the ultimate emotional feelings. And with the exception of one drunken one-night stand, I have always succeeded in that pursuit. And I really have him to thank for that. That is the best sex education I could have ever experienced. And I also just think like, the education system can walk and chew gum at the same time. The education system can say, this is a completely normal thing that you are not ready for.
Yes, that is exactly how it should be phrased.
And it shouldn't be like, this is something you shouldn't do and you should be ashamed of until you're XY. No, how to have healthy sex and how to know when you're ready to.
Perfect.
That whole conversation is never had. How do I know when I'm ready? Well, until you're in love, is what some people say. How the hell do I know when I'm in love? Well, until you're married. Okay, when you're 13, you don't think you're getting married until you're 40. Like you don't, that's, so okay, like never, just it's forever away. No, it's not forever away. It's probably like 2 or 3 years away. or at least when you start getting curious, not to mention the fact that sex is completely available to anyone who chooses to see it by like one Google video search.
Yeah.
Like porn.
Like you don't want to have porn be a
Your
teenager's teacher
Yeah.
about sex.
Especially considering it is so unrealistic, so gratuitous, so, for the male gaze, as we talked about before, and also addicting. And is totally messing up people's heads because that is where they're getting their sexual education, and because the brain doesn't know the difference, it thinks, oh, okay, so sex is scrolling through a feed and having access to infinite sexual partners, so that's how I know when I'm satisfied. And that's why like 18-year-old boys have ED. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
That is a failure of sex education, because when it's about shame, then the only resource you have is stealing the laptop under the covers and learning about it on Pornhub, and that's not it.
No. That bowl is empty, meaning that we have arrived at the end of this episode of Versus.
I know that this conversation is so much bigger than both of us. And for whatever it's worth, I am so glad that you shared so openly the actual experiences and the actual feelings that you have about many of these issues. I don't want to be a parent, and I don't think I ever will be one, but if I were one, I would be so stoked to have my daughter think of you as a role model. Like, it is harder to be a woman than a man. And, y'all go through stuff that we as men could not even begin to comprehend. And like, your understanding that talking about these things is so important, and your willingness to be a vessel for those lessons, I am just like so proud to know you and to date you and to be around you and to listen to you talk about these things.
That's so sweet.
I mean, it's true, and y'all better show her some love in the comments, because again, like, I'm a man. It's easier for me to have these conversations because these conversations are like theoretical. I've never really thought about this. It's a lived reality for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I don't know how to transition from that. That was so kind.
Well, if we sit in it for too long, I'm going to get uncomfortable and regret that I said it. So,
No.
Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. We'll see you later, guys.
guys.
Thanks for watching.
I really hope you enjoyed this video. And I really hope you were able to take something meaningful out of it and have some of these conversations in your own lives.
A lot of these types of videos, like, we're really interested in hearing from you guys, like what else you want us to cover, because we want to entertain you and all of that stuff, but like, it's important to us to like be informative and have like real conversations with the tea. And so like, please let us know what we can do to accomplish that.
As always, don't forget to like and subscribe.
YouTube.
And we will see you guys in a future video.
Peace.
Bye, Daddy.
Bye, Daddy.